Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about, this is my review of the book, The Game Master's Guide to Non-Player Characters. A 256-page book that is exactly the size of a D&D Canon hardback that is not a D&D Canon hardback. It's put out by Jeff Ashworth through Media Lab Books, and it's part of a series, and it's the first time I really encountered one of these books. But I want to review it in context to Dungeons & Dragons. So first of all, this is hyper-targeted at modern Dungeons & Dragons 5e dungeon masters who are willing to deal with third-party content, right? And this is 2023. Let's have a discussion about that. Is any of it needed, right? Because I think what we've seen is, one, Dungeons & Dragons is making so much official D&D canon hardback content that who would possibly need anything else, right? There's like 4 or 5 products hitting a year. There's literally there's over 35 D&D canon hardbacks in 5e alone. I think any dungeon I don't know a dungeon master who's gone through everything that's available. And then that doesn't even count the material you're going to make, right? So the question is this needed, right? So one, let me just, so it's very well written. The layout is fantastic. It's extremely good. The layout is fantastic. The art is not good from the perspective of the entire book is done in 3 colors, white, black, and blue, okay? And there are grays, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And so, like, when you've read a real D&D canon hardback, seeing a D&D canon hardback in anything but full color is a regression, right? So you're like, why would anybody do this? I'm going to answer that question, all right? So it's very well written and is filled with really intriguing non-player characters. The art is not good in that it's not full color. So it doesn't matter how well it's drawn or anything like that. You're just like, I've seen better of this in every single D&D canon hardback. Why would I possibly put up with this two-tone nonsense, right? And so, from that perspective, but here's the answer. Excuse me. So here's the answer, but there's still a question of if this book needs to exist. So the answer is this book is exactly the size of a D&D canon hardback and matches the quality in the physical presentation of the book, except for not full color. But we're going to get there. Listen to this, right? It is exactly the same size. Actually, it's a higher page count than the average Dungeon Master Guide. But it's $24 retail. That is well less. That is almost 33%. It's approaching just 1/3 the cost of a D&D book. That is astounding, right? And so to tell the truth, I'm really glad I got a hold of this because I had no idea that you could actually create a D&D canon hardback facsimile, literally the same, a higher page count, a slightly higher page count, right? Most D&D canon hardbacks are coming in around 190, 224 now, right? And then the slipcase is a different discussion, so let's keep this simple, right? But a single D&D, so this is massively cheaper than a D&D canon hardback. Massively cheaper, right? Which is really dramatic, right? And that, like, almost 2/3 cheaper, right? That is and definitely, actually, easily 60% less than a D&D canon hardback. So my review is, I'm fascinated that this exists, right? And I would love to meet the dungeon. Well, I guess that's the answer. Is dungeon masters wouldn't use this. First of all, I'm going to try to never allow the word game master to be put anywhere near me again. I think anybody who calls themselves a game master should be ashamed of themselves. And the reason why is it's generic dungeon master. But why? Why would you pull off your label, right? Like, why would you be like, I'm a generic version of the thing you love? Like, yeah, I will never do that, right? And I really think that Dungeon Master is a title of glory, and Game Master has become a badge of shame. and you should wear it as a badge of shame if you consider yourself a game master. And honestly, I think every game should try to leave that alone and abandon the term game master. I don't think it's a useful title anymore. I think it's a badge of shame, right? So first of all, anybody who would buy this, I think, is somebody who has taken off their dungeon master crown, right? A crown dropper. That's what this is. This is a product for a crown dropper, right? So back in the you can drop a crown in Fortnite, right? You could be you can win a victory royale and then take the crown off. Now, why would you possibly do this? Well, in the old days, basically you wore your crown. I think they changed this, but in a few years ago in Fortnite, you would wear your crown and you'd be like, hey, everybody, I defeated every single person in the last match, right? And I'm wearing this crown and you could see me across the map because I'm better than you, right? And then people would take it off, right? They would be like, oh, it makes me too visible. I can't wear the crown. This is for crown droppers. This book is for people who absolutely do not wish to absolutely do not ever wish to hold any glory or any expectation of quality or good things from them is ever expected. I think this book helped me answer some questions, right? So, what is this for? This is for a person who's I don't want the expectation of Dungeon Master on me. Ben from Questing Beast, at the end of 2022, said it. He was like, hey, if you're a D&D 5e Dungeon Master, if you're a real Dungeon Master who runs actual Dungeons & Dragons, you're expected to know the rules backwards and forwards. You're expected to be an amazing storyteller, and you're expected to be a life coach. This book is for crown droppers. It's people who do not want the expectation of quality and awesomeness to fall upon them. They want to be able to escape it, right? So it was really interesting to see this book, and I was shocked that you can make an actual D&D facsimile book for $24, right? Because regular D&D canon hardbacks are $60. Now, the reality is no D&D canon hardback is actually regular anymore. It's way ahead of the entire industry. So I take my $60, I give it directly to Hasbro. I order on their site, and I get the pre-order of the digital D&D Beyond version weeks ahead of the physical release. Then I get the physical release, and then I have the D&D content permanently, right? Which is pretty astounding, right? So D&D canon hardbacks aren't even regular anymore. This is literally just a book. You pick it up and you're like, oh, I read the book, but do I have if I don't have my entire library with me, do I have access to it? The answer is no, you don't, right? So because it didn't include a free again, everybody should be ashamed of PDFs because Dungeons & Dragons doesn't even do PDFs now. They do full hyperlinked platforms, right? So the level of expectation on Dungeon Masters, the level of quality on Dungeons & Dragons product is so high, right, that that only people who would attach the words Game Master themselves will touch these books, right? I touched this book and I read this book, but would ever dare to bring it to the table, right? People who have just given up any expectation of ever delivering quality or delivering a good story, I think, would be interested in this kind of book. That's my take. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's your humble opinion? What do you think? Have you ever tried any of these 5e generic books? I will say this. When I saw that the book I was holding in my hand cost $24 retail, I was astounded. I could not believe that this book could be purchased for $24. That is truly incredible. So hats off to Media Labs for doing that. Media Lab Books and to Jeff Athworth. That was a shocking achievement. I still don't know who would buy it, right? And I don't understand how anybody would be willing to put the word Game Master on themselves to run this, right? And also, I'm really astounded that there's still people that are willing to bring non-official D&D books to a D&D game. It's interesting. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. I'm eager to hear your humble opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.